Hello, everybody. This is Edan of LightCycleAstrology.com. Welcome back to the channel, friends, and happy holidays. Today, we're doing Mantic Monday episode number 17. We're taking a look at the astrology for December the 18th through the 24th, and this is leading us up to Christmas Eve. And that, I think, is very apropos for this week because there are astrology aspects coming through that, for me, really embody the magic of the holiday season. So I really like this week. I'm looking forward to it. We'll get into why that is here in a moment. Before we do, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit notifications so you don't miss any videos. Leave some comments in the comment section, and you can always go to lightcycleastrology.com if you want to check out any readings that I offer there. Okay, well, let's jump right into this episode. I am pretty excited to talk about this week. There are features of the week that are very amazing. We have, in particular, we have a Venus opposed Uranus aspect that is beginning to move into aspects or move into the range of engagement on Monday, and then is going to perfect on Thursday, and then that aspect begins to fade out by late Saturday or completely by Sunday, we'll say. So you should begin to be feeling this Venus opposed Uranus dimensional archetypal themes. You should see those or notice those beginning Monday. And then we're going to get sort of a peaking out of that energy by Thursday, and then it sort of fades out. So I believe that this is making quite a sparkly, lovely holiday, with Christmas lights out there and everything like this. But one of the things that I wanted to take us a little bit deeper in territory today was we're seeing these two planets stand in opposition. So what could that mean? Oppositions are a little bit of a tricky aspect to wrap your mind around. One of the most common oppositions that we see in astrology is, of course, going to be the full moon that we have every month, an opposition that happens between the lights. Now, in ancient astrology, the opposition is said to be of the nature of Saturn because the temples of the sun and the moon, Leo and Cancer, respectively, are standing in opposition to both of the temples of Saturn, Capricorn, and Aquarius. So if you look at the Thema Mundi, where all of the planets were said to have their domicile or their home temples, you'll notice that the lights are down there in those summer signs, and of course they're standing in opposition to the winter months of Saturn's domiciles. So right there, the Thema Mundi is this ancient teaching device that was used by sage astrologers in the ancient world, and it was like a mandala for meditation. It had all of these schemes within it that would bring your mind into kind of a deep contemplation or mystical understanding. It was a style of teaching that wasn't just, okay, here's the question, here's the answer, memorize it, move on, next, repeat, right? It was more about the repetition and the meditation of slowly gaining understanding of these very elusive archetypes. So, of course, Venus in opposition to Uranus, Venus in Scorpio's temple, and Uranus in Taurus's temple. One of the things that was really kind of hitting me very deeply as I was thinking about this aspect that is going to be the most prominent, archetypal energies sort of in the environment or within ourselves as the week goes on, is that if you look at signs that are opposite to each other, you get very interesting, almost non-oppositional characteristics. So, for instance, one theme that you might see is that at times planets standing in opposition to one another aren't clearly like night and day, up and down, black and white, man and woman, that sort of thing. Sometimes you get the integral sort of archetypal theme coming through that says there was this one piece already here, but it didn't get activated completely until its other half came into view. Once those two come into view, they're both integral to each other. And then from that, there's an opportunity for conception. So Very, very interesting, because we tend to think of Saturn as being an archetype that speaks to the barrenness of women, or um, somehow not being fertile, or needing, like being of the fate that somehow or another you're separated or distant from the ability to reproduce, or something like that. We tend to think of Saturn as rejection and limitation. So you don't really think of Saturn so much as like, oh, here's a mating opportunity, right? Jupiter really holds that archetypal mantle. We think of Jupiter as, in the ancient world, one of Jupiter's key words was literally sperm. It was connected with the fertile warmth and rains that would come in and bless the crops. It was connected with almost like eroticism, like sexual desire and eroticism. And of course, it was connected with being able to conceive and have a lot of children. So one way that you can think of an opposition from my own personal meditation. So this isn't something that I learned traditionally. This is something that I'm curious about and I'm exploring, but that may fly in the face of the classic way that we would think about archetypal astrology. But what I mean by this is, imagine, for instance, that here is Venus in Scorpio. Now, Venus is in a Mars-ruled sign that is solid or stable. It's a fixed sign, as we would say. And that's because Scorpio is the sign that is coming right between the transition into fall that happens during Libra and the transition out of fall that happens in Sagittarius. So both signs flanking solid or fixed signs are going to be signs that are kind of transitional, but the sign in the middle of the season is always that fixed sign that sustains the direction of light at that moment. So Scorpio, of course, is going to be sustaining the growth and empowerment of dark and darkness that is heading towards the darkest time of the year. And of course, Taurus is the opposite of that, but it's still the job of Taurus is exactly the same as the job of Scorpio. So within apparent oppositional signs, you get sameness. They're both doing the same thing. They're both stabilizing the light conditions at that time. Very interesting. Now, you also see this happening with polarity, where both Scorpio and Taurus are nighttime slash feminine slash, yin signs. They're more gestational or inside, or slower to act. They're less extroverted in a way, but they're nighttime signs, right? So we're not talking about Venus being in a nighttime sign and Uranus being in a daytime sign. And you could really see some very strong oppositional tension between that, where you get the opposite of one over here and opposing its counter, part over here that's completely different. You get sameness again, where both Venus is in night, Uranus is in night. Even the elemental quality between oppositional signs is compatible and not so hardly contrasted. Like, we're not talking about Scorpio being fire and Uranus being like water or something like that, where there's like this hard contrast and those two elements really don't pair. They really have a hard time pairing. We're talking about Scorpio being water and Taurus being earth. So from the standpoint of the mandala of the Thema Mundi teaching tool, it's odd that we should get signs in opposition to each other being very similar, having a lot of similar characteristics. That leads me to almost think of the key word for oppositional signs as integral, because it's as if what it's saying is yeah, sure, Venus is in the dark of the dark, Uranus is in the light of the light. But beyond that, there's a lot of sameness that I think speaks to a teaching by the Thema Mundi that says these are integral halves of one, right? This we're saying that maybe Venus in Scorpio, you've been feeling oddly attracted to more dark, mysterious, maybe even dangerous, or there's like this macabre interest towards Marsy death, like dark things, right? 50 Shades of Grey is my example. But what could Uranus represent? Well, maybe Uranus is like Venus feeling like, I'm really feeling like my style is like gothic right now, like I'm feeling that gothic, what is it? Winona Ryder in Beetlejuice, all black, and like kind of that stuff, and that's like that erotic darkness. But maybe nothing comes of it until the opposition happens with Uranus. And Uranus says, well, I feel like the electric display, I'm going to dress up in my most out of the box, electrifying makeup with the wig and really go out there and paint the town red. Now you get these two planets in opposition, and then it's like there's almost like an opportunity for mating or something like that. So again, one of the most common oppositions that we encounter all the time is the full moon, right? And I believe under the full moon, there are a lot of life forms that go out for mating opportunities at that time. So for me, it's opportunity for things that are exciting, that are going to be apparently opposite, but also provide opportunity for things to come together and be whole. So, for instance, let's say that you are feeling like if there's something that needs to be destroyed, Venus in Scorpio. Now here comes Uranus in Taurus, and all of a sudden it's like, well, I've been feeling like I've been wanting to sort of set this on fire and destroy it. It's no longer serving, and it deserves its own due ending, right? Well, here comes Uranus in Venus's sign saying, well, to do that, let's dress up and be really, really spectacularly exciting and electrifying, very attractive, very life promoting. And let's pair these two, and what could be an opportunity for creating something new. That is one way that I think you could see this tension with this aspect this week. So it's something like integral mating opportunities, but I don't just mean sexually with between men and women. I mean, what could be created by the tension? This is a very Venus, both we're saying Uranus in Venus's sign and Venus in an aspect in Scorpio. So there's a lot of archetypal connection with creativity, maybe with sexuality, maybe with pleasure around things that are dark, mysterious, dangerous, maybe almost like taking a pleasure ride that is somehow like a thrill ride of danger. There's that really excitability to it that is really almost creating that opportunity for something to be conceived, or for conception to be happening on some level in some way, whether that's just with creative things or whether that's actually in response to relationships between lovers or something along those lines. But it could be anything. It could be creative projects that have to do with work or making money or something like that, or moving or anything. But that's the tension, that dark, exciting opportunity arises and is almost like the hair up your butt, kind of really wild, electrifying, but yet dark and macabre, almost like flirting with danger or destruction. That's how I would describe the archetypal tensions, like psychologically, I think, this week. And this is mounting again. This is beginning to come into a view right around Monday, and then it builds by Thursday to a peak and then begins to sort of fade out after that. But so that is prominent in the week. And then the other thing that is really, really special, very special about this week, of course, is we have the winter solstice that comes through Friday at 3:27 a.m., December the 22nd. And this is going to be London time, just because I want to make it centrally time located for each person to convert off of that central time zone. So GMT time, very early on Friday, but a very special moment in the year where the sun crosses the winter solstice degree and enters the sign of Capricorn. And let's move the real-time clock forward to that day. And there we go on the 22nd here. Now, it's always special each year when we have the winter solstice, of course, right? That's always a special marker. It's one of the four most special markers that the sun makes, the solstices and the equinoxes. So these are major seasonal markers, for one, where we're leaving behind autumn and we're moving into fall. But with the world celebrating the holidays at this time, there have been a lot of holidays in the past, but most holidays have fallen by the wayside. But it's interesting that Christmas or Yule or Hanukkah and all of these different, like Kwanzaa, all these different celebrations have stuck with humanity all these hundreds of years, starting back in Rome, almost 2,000 years ago, where we have Saturnalia. So this is a special time of year that is celebrating in a big way themes around solar rebirth, themes around light that has reached its lowest point in the sky, and from this moment forward begins to rise. So it's like the birth of the sun. And of course, we have a lot of religious iconography that is speaking to the sun being reborn, right? Jesus' birth and so on and so forth. So that's one thing that is very, very special. And of course, at this time, this could mean that you get these stories of being reborn in such a way that you reorient the meaning or purpose of your life in a big way that may have something to do with these really expansive goals. That's one thing that you could see for a theme. But what's really, really incredibly special is if we roll the real-time clock forward to 13 hours after the sun crosses this solstice degree, while you would still say, here is the sun in the solstice, right? Because the solstice is approximately 3 days long. One of the reasons why Christian mythology says that Jesus was put into the tomb for 3 days. The way that mythology has been derived is the fact that astronomically the sun is apparently not moving north or south during this time period for about 3 days. So the word solstice means sun stands still, right? It's the soul is still. And that is, of course, a deviation from the sun either traveling towards the south throughout half of the year and then the sun heading north for the other half of the year. But a couple times a year we get these sun reversals. But at this time, the sun is at its lowest declination. It's as low in the sky as it ever gets. It's closest to the earth. So it crosses what ancient astrologers referred to as the gateway of the gods. And it was seen that because the sun is low to the earth, but then begins to rise away from the earth, that spirit was leaving matter. The world represented the dimension of materiality, and the sun, of course, represents the light of the soul. So you get the light of the soul sort of leaving or exiting out of the material plane, a very spiritual moment. And that's always a pretty powerful spiritual moment, of course, where we see the rebirth of spiritual goals or spiritual ambitions or a spiritual rebirth within our souls. But then 13 hours after the solstice, you get Mercury, which has been retrograde, moving onto the heart of the sun, and Mercury becomes the ambassador of the king, carrying all of the powers of the throne, if you will. So we get these very mental, clarifying, alchemical rendering of a process of revising something as it pertains to the Mercury retrograde that then becomes empowered, and clarity begins, being rendered all of a sudden at that moment. And you have these very bright, powerful mental states of clarity or understanding or knowing exactly what it is that is the right message coming through for you. But because this moment is happening so close to the solstice, for me, it just feels extra special. It feels like I want to be on top of a mountain at this moment, just really resetting myself spiritually. Preparing for another year ahead, letting go of everything that needs to be let go of, forgiveness, common themes of the holiday season. Forgiveness, love, goodwill towards man. This is a really powerful, impactful moment because we have this amplification of these normal themes that we have on the winter solstice, but with Mercury Cazimi. It's just like, it's a very powerful moment. Yesterday, I was watching a Christmas movie with Kate. It was called A Christmas Story. As soon as I say that, people are thinking, oh, you mean the movie with the kid in the Red Ryder BB gun. No, actually, this is becoming more popular, so you guys might know what I'm talking about. But a few years ago, nobody knew what this movie was. But I had, just by chance, run into this movie and bought it and watched it. And this is a Finnish movie that I would argue is, I don't know if you could say it's the best Christmas movie of all time, but it might be the best Christmas movie of all time. And I won't spoil it for you, but it's a movie that is in northern Finland. It's the actors are, I think, mostly all Finnish actors, and they are, of course, there's like voiceover because the original audio was spoken in Finnish, but it's this incredible story about a boy who becomes orphaned. And then the small fishing village that is in the Arctic, above the Arctic Circle, very, very cold, who are surviving off of essentially minimal crops that they can grow at not very much time of the year, and mostly of the fish that they get during the the spring and summer months out of the lake that they live on. But his parents die as they need to bring this boy's sister to a doctor one evening. They fall into the ice, and then he becomes orphaned. And then the town decides that in order to help this boy survive without parents, they're all going to take him for a year, and they're going to pass him off every Christmas. The reason why he just doesn't get a regular home or is adopted outright by a family is because they can't do that. There's not enough food to go around. So each family decides that they're going to sort of shoulder the responsibility and the duty to feed this boy and keep him alive and love him. And they'll do it for a year, but then that's all that they can really handle. So then he moves on. It's a movie that is powerfully connected to the mythology of Santa Claus, because this boy turns out to be Santa Claus, and they explain the magic of the mystical gift giver, the saint gift giver. And he was a saint because he always, as is common with most fairy tales, he always has that very strong way of letting cruelty roll off his back. At one point, he is looked after by someone who is quite cruel to him, but he never reacts. He never loses his temper. He has that virtue of in time winning this man over. And of course, love between them, like a father and a son, develops. And it's a beautiful story. But the symbolism in this movie is just, for me, it really, really fits this Cazimi kind of archetypal feeling that is going to come through, I believe, this solstice, which is that there's this incredible way that youth and innocence and virtue and coming back to some very important central meaning or spiritual center is going to be something that I think is really going to help us make a major reset, a huge soul reset. And it might be about what it is that you want to do, what it is that life is all about, making goals, especially in the sign of Capricorn like this. But the symbolism is that the boy transfers from family to family, and here is the son who is being reborn. So check that movie out. You won't be disappointed. It is phenomenal. But themes around major new births of soul purpose, or I get the image of almost like a mountain coming into view. Like you've maybe been walking in the lowlands, and at this time, there's just this incredible ability for clarity to come, and you see a mountain sort of maybe hike a little bit beyond the forest line, and then there's this beautiful mountain, and you say to yourself, I want to climb that the next year. That's sort of the image that I get. Now, by the end of the week, we have one more thing coming. We have, let me just roll the real-time clock forward to Mercury moving back into Sagittarius. So very, very interesting. Mercury appears to be making that aha moment, that Kazemi moment, and then changing signs, going back into a Jupiter-ruled sign, which is going to probably speak to some kind of broader perspective, some kind of 20,000 foot view, that it's like, first you need a lookout. You're not sure how to climb the mountain, so maybe you need to start up the mountain and head off to a little shoal that can give you like a view of where you're headed. There needs to be a little bit more higher perspective, I think, as Mercury goes into Sagittarius. So that is what I have for this week. And then, of course, this is all leading to Christmas Eve. And so the next video will be about Christmas and the end of the year. I'm still working on the 2024 astrology. Probably going to make a video about some of the transits that are really popping, standing out, being really important transits of the year to look forward to on the channel. I hope you guys have a very merry holiday Christmas season, and I will see you again on Christmas. Thanks so much for watching, and take care. Bye.